All right, it's May 27th. I just crossed over the bridge at the Lincoln Woods Trailhead to start a 3-day backpacking adventure out into the Pemigewasset wilderness. So I'm gonna do the Pemigewasset loop and hopefully get Mount Owl's Head too while I'm out here. So it should be a really fun 3 days. All right, I'm on the summit of Mount Bondcliff, the first of my 12 Pemigewasset loop mountains. And the views up here are just absolutely crazy. All right, the top of Mount Bond. This is number 8. So I just got to camp for the evening, and this is where I'll be setting up. Platform with this awesome view. Good morning. It's 4:45 a.m. I got up about 20 minutes ago. Today's the second day of the Pemi loop, and I've got a big day ahead of me. Probably gonna hike for 12 hours, more or less. And for breakfast this morning, I've got a nice bag of strawberry granola crunch. It's basically Special K in a pouch. So, of course, my spork. For a very sweaty number 9. The top of West Pond. All right, number 10, South Twin. So I've got Mount Washington over my shoulder here. This was supposed to be 11, but I missed my turnoff for Zealand Mountain like 1.5 miles, 2 miles ago. So I'm not going back to go get that. This is probably the end of my attempt at doing the Pemi loop anyways. I didn't know the rules about the gas stoves, so basically at any of the campsites you are only allowed to use a gas stove, and I brought a little twig stove for this trip, and that's not going to work. So basically I have a whole bunch of meals that I can't eat. So I think what I'm going to do is call this trip done, head on down to the 13 Falls campsite for the evening, and get Owl's Head in the morning and basically work my way out at a lower elevation. Yeah, kind of a bummer, but I'll come back and do this again in the summertime when I'm a little bit more prepared for it and have a better idea of what I need. So pack lighter, pack a gas stove. I'm getting attacked by black flies. But yeah, it's been a fun trip so far. We'll see how the rest of it goes. So this is the outlook from Gale Head. Looking down into the Pemigewasset Valley there. I decided to add Gale Head to the trek today before I went down to 13 Falls. It was only like 0.4 miles from my trail to go down to 13 Falls, so I figured I might as well grab it while I'm up here. That way, this will be 11, and Owl's Head tomorrow will be 12. Summit of Mount Galehead. This is more like it. Things were starting to get too scenic for a while there. I'm far more comfortable with these tree-covered summits. Less wind. If you're a real avid hiker or outdoors person, I highly suggest that you get a life straw. These things are great as a survival tool, but even better is if you find an awesome stream like the one that I found, you can just go ahead and drink right from it, which is what I'm about to do. So good. All right, it is just before 3 p.m. I just got to the 13 Falls campsite, and I'm gonna stow my food away in a bear box and then go swimming in these 13 falls. There's really only 5, I think, but I'm gonna check them out and see if I can find all 5 pools. So, sounds like a pretty good afternoon, making the best out of a trip that I feel like I bailed on, but doing what we can. Yo, look at that. Here's number 5. That looks nice. Yo, this thing is out of control. I think that's the first pool right there technically, but I can hear rocks moving through this water, so I'm not getting in up here. And for dinner on tonight's menu, we have 4 bean and vegetable soup. And we also have buffalo style chicken mac and cheese. So I was actually able to cook a meal, get some stuff heated up. So I'm really looking forward to dinner tonight. The buffalo chicken mac and cheese was pretty good. The 4 bean chili, or whatever it was, bean soup, bad, really bad. Overspiced. The water wasn't hot enough to get all the beans to cook in time. But at least for dessert, cookie dough snacks. Ooh. All right, I just pitched my tent for the evening. It is time to call it a night. I'm off to go do Owl's Head tomorrow. And I just finished up my adventure out into the Pemigewasset wilderness. It started as a Pemi loop. I realized I packed too heavy and didn't bring the right stuff. So I bailed on that about halfway through, like a third of the way through. Went down to camp out last night at 13 Falls, and I did Owl's Head today. So that makes, for this trip, I got Bond Cliff, Bond, West Bond, South Twin, and Owl's Head, which was a real pain. I understand why that's a tough one for people to get. So the count's at 12 now. I am officially 25% of the way through, which is a great feeling. This trek was a lot. Like, it was more than I was expecting. Like, the weight of that rucksack that you need to bring for a multi-day backpacking trip really starts to wear on you. I just wasn't expecting, how much that would affect my ability to get through the mountains at pace, the impact that it would have on the timing of the whole trip. It really made a big difference. Dude, these flies again. Those bump marks on my head are from, like, horse flies. I'm so done with them. Yeah, so it wears on you quite a bit more than I expected. Overall, though, it was a really fun adventure. I saw a bunch of cool stuff. I saw a marmot, I think, like a weasel or a marmot, something like that. I've never seen one of those before. I stumbled across. So let me backtrack a little bit. as I was headed in to do this trek, one of the people who works here told me that they've been having a terrible bear problem. And basically, there's this overly aggressive bear that is no longer afraid of humans, that has been terrorizing a lot of the campsites in the area, especially the ones that are like lower in elevation. And so the entire trip, I had this anxiety that I was going to have some impolite bear, run up on me trying to steal some food from my bag. So for like half the trek, anytime I was below tree line, I was packing bear spray on my hip. And there were a couple incidences where I got a little wigged out by what I came across. So the first one, I was walking up to Bond, and I hear like this sound like whoa, 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 whoa. And I had no idea what it was. So I stop, right? And I freak out because I think that there's a bear like in the wood line that I can't see. So I pull my bear spray out, wait for a minute, kind of do a 360 look around. Luckily, there was nothing there. And so I said, I have to keep walking forward. No point in staying here. And sure enough, like 10 yards later, there's a grouse sitting in a tree that makes the same noise, a few seconds later as it takes off to fly from one tree to another. So apparently grouse make some crazy noise when they have to leave the ground because they're so big or whatever, so heavy. But that happened to me once, and admittedly twice, where I heard, 3 to 6, quick thumping sounds, like deep, like bass noises, and I pulled my bear spray out because I thought that I was going to get jumped by a bear. So that happened twice. Other incidents, as I was walking down from South Twin to 13 Falls, I came across an enormous pile of scat. Just like, clearly something way bigger than me. It was like that Jurassic Park feeling, where like I'm out here with something else that is a lot bigger than me. And so I see one pile right on the trail, and then no more than 5 yards ahead of that, just off of the trail, is another pile. And I'm like, oh my God, I am in the den of something. I wasn't sure what it was, but it definitely had me wigged out that I was, in the den of something way bigger than me that I didn't want to run into. So I walk a little bit further, like another 20 yards, and I see another pile just in the middle of the trail. And I stop and I think for a second, like, is this like what bear scat looks like? And I thought to myself, it looked a lot like deer, but like way bigger. Like, because I'd seen plenty of piles of, deer poop around in the woods before. But this was, 5 times the volume in diameter, if you know what I mean. And so I sort of rationalized it to myself, like, those animals are pretty close. They probably make similar looking turds. And I sort of like calmed myself down and realized that it was probably moose, because there are a lot of moose who live in that 13 Falls area. So that was a little sketchy for a few minutes until I realized what I was actually looking at. But then today, as I had finished up Owl's Head, I'm coming down, I'm walking out to the trail, to the trailhead. I think I'm pretty much done. All I have to do is get out of the woods. I came across a pile of actual bear scat. that looked like, you know, an enormous dog had taken a crap in the woods, right in the middle of the trail. So for about, you know, I don't know, 2.5 miles or so, I was doing 360 look-arounds, keeping my head on a swivel to make sure that there was not some bear following me. Because evidently, earlier in the week, this bear had followed some guy for the better part of a mile down the trail. A couple weeks ago, some woman got charged by the bear. So I was really on edge about the bears all week. Thankfully, I didn't run into any. Thankfully. But it was a real adventure. There was a sense of danger. I poured sweat. I bled a little bit. Thankfully, there were no tears. If I had tried to finish the loop, there may have been tears. No promises. But it's just such a great feeling to have gone out and done something tough and adventurous and get Owl's Head checked off the list and use that as a good consolation prize for bailing on my original plan. I really needed to like not beat myself up over not preparing properly for this. And so being able to go camp out at 13 Falls and swim in the swimming pools underneath the waterfalls, and then go get Owl's Head checked off the list, which is a trip that I wasn't super looking forward to doing, is good. It's good. It's a real relief. I feel accomplished, despite the fact that I did not achieve what I originally intended to. And so I think that's always a good thing. So now it is time to head on back to the car, go find somewhere to get a burger and a beer, because I deserve it. It's going to taste so good. So that's this week's Pemigewasset adventure.